We'll start with Planning Commission, and Commissioner Pressler, will you give us, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there any disclosures or declarations of conflict from any of the commissioner members or anything on the agenda? Okay. So on the agenda, I'd like to move number E5 to number 1 and then continue down the agenda after that. Anybody have any objections to that? If not, we need a motion to change that agenda.
I make a motion that we move business item 5 to the first, number 1.
Any second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we need to move on to C1, review and possible approval of Planning Commission meeting minutes from January 10, 2024. Has everybody gone through those? Any changes? Everything look okay? Okay, looking for a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes from the January meeting.
Okay,
I second it.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now on to item D for the reports. The only thing I have is just kind of a housekeeping thing on when we move in and out of a public hearing. We don't need to have a roll call or a motion or anything. I'll just move us in and out. That'll kind of expedite the process. That's the only item I have. Any commissioners have anything they want to report on? Okay. Riker.
Yeah, just a few quick things here. Updates on some ordinances that we're working on. We're currently working on a draft for preliminary and final site plans. We've got a rough draft of that we're working through. That we'll be bringing before you when that's ready. We're working on a draft for time-limited parking as well, and for drafts on accessory dwelling units, an ordinance addressing our parks, amending our wall and fence ordinance, a lot split ordinance. We're working on the livestock ordinance as well. And then on top of that, we have some drafts for a definition for taverns and some other ordinances. In addition to that, as was announced in the city council meeting, we're going to be working with Sunrise Engineering through the Department of Workforce Services to update our subdivision code. We were able to, we're going to be able to work with them to do that. We're allotted $14,000 in land use planning services to update that ordinance and come into compliance with state code. So we'll be coordinating with them and bringing that before you when it's ready.
Okay, thank you. Darren?
Just a couple of items here, just talking about is number 1 is we're attempting and going forward with getting an active transportation and master plan as well as a transportation plan, updating those. One of those things with that, we're seeking grant money to do that. And I don't know how many of you understand what an active transportation plan compared to a regular transportation plan is. Active is basically you think about trails, getting people so that they can bike and hike. We want to include these types of things, updating this. We're working with Greater Zion, UDOT, about keeping some of those same standards. There's some initiative at the state level right now that are giving incentives for us to go forward with that. So we're trying to capitalize on some of those opportunities. The other thing, I've been working on the streetlight details for our city. We have our dark sky ordinance. The thing was, we've never had any say, hey, this is a manufacturer that makes a streetlight that meets our dark sky ordinances. So we've been working with the engineers to get that done. And that'll go before the city council as our part of our standards and specifications. Working on that. The other thing, last week I went to a leadership workshop, which was incredibly good. Helped me to understand. I've been doing a lot of different leadership positions throughout my career. One of the big takeaways was really kind of cool, and Afton has really helped me with this too, is to realize those people around you, or but a circle of people around you that you can trust and that you have a lot of confidence and know their abilities. Super great type of thing. Also, I just kind of slightly mentioned UDOT trails. The Transportation Expo was today, talked a little bit with UDOT on their new initiatives for trail systems with inside of UDOT right of ways. That's a little bit of, they're just barely rolling that out and exploring that, but so we're working directly with them. And kind of the last thing is working together with the engineers, UDOT, and out at the Sapp Brothers Travel Center for our first streetlight stoplight. So that's coming along as well. So that's kind of a brief overview of the engineering things that we're working on.
Okay, thank you.
Question. Can you tell us why they're moving all the soil in the
Afton's gonna.
gap?
Afton's got that in her report. Yeah,
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
you bet. And Dean?
So working on that first street light, are you guys, who's going to pay for the maintenance of it?
So it's a UDOT light. It'll be maintained. It's on UDOT's right of way. The design of that has to meet all of UDOT standards. They have what they call the ATMS, which is micro ducting, which puts the communication so that all of the traffic lights. So as you go through Hurricane and even up north, the traffic lights talk to each other, and so you'll see those little sensors on most of them nowadays that sense that you've got cars there. They're working with the UDOT standard, and also that developer that's doing the travel center is being required to put that in by UDOT. They won't be able to get COs before they get that installed. It'll help out with traffic. The traffic studies were done by Sapp Brothers, Mr. Eves, and also another development that hasn't really materialized as of yet. And so we're going to use that information, or they've used that information to just determine where those stoplights, the different traffic patterns, the widths of roads, those types of things that will warrant that type of a deal. And that's based on use of that actual proposal, such as, if you had a residential subdivision that came in and when they do that, I am not a traffic engineer. I just watch it. It's very similar to water. Traffic takes the path of least resistance. And so you want to size your roads that determine those so that as you come out into the major arterials, those are the ones that collect all the minor type of things. So you think of that as a drainage type of a scenario. Works the same way. And, but yeah, they are working on that. And that, like I said, that maybe is a little bit more than you wanted to hear, but anyway.
I just wanted to make sure somebody was paying for the maintenance, not the city.
Yep. No, that's going to be not until it becomes a city-owned light, and that's probably a ways away.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda. So we have Afton Moore's here, city manager. She'll come and visit with us the first meeting of the month and kind of give us a rundown of everything that's happening in the city. And so thank you, Afton, for coming. And
Yeah, thanks for having me. Normally, I would give this report first at City Council at their first meeting, but I actually was gone for the last one, so I'm giving it at this one. So some of this might be a review for some people who've been in the loop on things, and others it might be new information. Kennington and Christensen came and performed our annual on-site audit in December of our finances. We passed that successfully. That was presented to City Council and was accepted. We scored high for separation of duties. Our assessment showed low fraud risk, high marks for documentation and compliance procedures. So that was really good to hear. At this time, 66% of the year has elapsed, and we've only spent 63% of the revenue, so the budget. So we are right on track with our expenditures. Our next major expenditure that we are going to be asking council for is a backup generator for Town Hall. We've already put one at Springs Drive. We did some of those projects when we got our flashing signs with CARES funding. The community report, we are still moving forward with code enforcement. We've been working on the top 5 complaints, which are lighting, vicious dogs, nuisance, which includes drugs, unlicensed nightly rentals, and land use and violations, including grading without a permit. So we're going to talk about grading permits a little bit later. We just wanted to let everybody know our city attorney, our former city attorney, Heath Snow, has resigned, and we put out a new RFP. We will be accepting RFPs through the 20th, and then we will start interviews, and then a new city attorney would be selected March 6th. So we're excited about that. Our attorney in the interim was our conflict counsel, and he's here with us tonight, Matt Atkins. He's doing a phenomenal job, so we're excited about that. One other thing we wanted to talk about is upcoming is the State of the City address. And this is going to lead into kind of some of those questions he had about the bypass road. The State of the City, we would like everybody to come to that. We are going to be, the mayor and council will be there. We're going to be talking and highlighting some of the projects that have been done around town, some of the development that has come to town, and kind of where we're going next. A couple of things before we get into the bypass road and the explanation on some of those things. We had several people that called the city with questions and things happening either on the bypass or with development and how that works. And so we wanted to give a little bit of background. We were asked by council to give a little bit of history and background so that people could maybe understand that a little bit better. So as we go into the bypass, we're actually going to show a clip of it in just a minute. But first, I want to just say at the State of the City address, a couple of things that we are going to be addressing are in year one. This is kind of our 3rd year city managing. And so we've split into departments. We've hired staff. I'm sure people have noticed we've received lots of praise for how the parks are looking and cemeteries and things like that. A couple of things that we did, the state of Utah requires cities to have plans in place. Those plans are general plans. They're on our website, but they're general plans, capital facilities plans, annexation policy plans, some things like that. And so what we've done is normally a city would have these plans come up one a year over 5 years and then start again with updating these. So in Tokerville, we decided we'd do them all at once. So that's what we did. So we went out and got some grant funding for those. So we have done our general plan, which that's been a very long process. You guys were instrumental in that. So thank you for that. We have redone portions of our capital facilities plan. More importantly than redoing that plan, we have started checking those plans off of the list. The capital facilities, if you think of it, is anything that's going to say like, welcome to our brand new shiny, whatever it is going to be, a water tank, a road, a building, those types of things. So we've completed our capital facilities plan, our annexation policy plan, our water conservation plan, our culinary water master plan, starting into our master transportation plan update. And some of those that we have done, we've started a capital project, which is the Westfield Park. So that if you drive by there, you're going to see that that is currently under construction. So be ready for a road closure up on Westfield at some point in time. In the near future, they've got to cross that road right there. But so that is under construction. That will be super nice when that's done. We focused on water. We brought culinary water to Anderson Junction. We're continuing with our AMI meter conversion, which is replacing our old radio read, hand read meters with water meters. That project is about 70% complete. So in addition to that, we have just signed an agreement with the state of Utah with the Governor's Office of Economic Development and Opportunity, where we received a grant for $4.5 million to construct a 2 million gallon tank on the west side of Tokerville. So that's currently under construction. We have placed cameras on all of the tanks. We have done an analysis of Tokerville secondary water system. That's ongoing because we have an agreement that in 2027 or by then that the city will take that over and start managing that system. So we've started discussions with that. We've also performed a hydraulic analysis on the Springs Drive tank, which would let us know that we are capable of bypassing that tank. If anything were to happen, that tanks have a 50-year fail rate. That tank has hit that point. And so rather than going out and bonding, getting a loan or something, going out and bonding, we were able to do a hydraulic analysis to demonstrate that we could bypass that if we had to and still maintain water. One of the other things we're looking at doing with the water tank going on the west side is the possibility of putting in a pressure reducer valve, which would allow us to loop that back into our system. And so that also will help with excess storage capacity. So we've on our roads, we have been able to complete our crack seal again this year, like we have every year. The realignment of Highway 91 has been completed. If you've driven out toward the freeway, you'll see that it now goes between where Sapp Brothers and Lance Chernos, the RV park is. So we've completed that. The parkway is ongoing, and we just wanted really just demonstrate that the projects that have been done it's actually pretty unbelievable that we've been able to do all of these in the last couple of years. But we have great staff. We have obviously great citizens. Planning Commission, you guys have been instrumental in either updating ordinances or really diving into those and finding out if they needed to be or not. So that's been really helpful. I also want to just say that this has been a huge undertaking. We have developers that have helped. We've had grants that have come through. We have updated our fee schedule. And we have started charging for other services that we weren't. And then we've reduced spending in other areas to keep that under the budget. And so those are just kind of some huge things. We plan on building on all of those in 2024 at the State of the City. We're going to kind of unveil kind of our new 2024 vision of other projects we'd like to complete. The main thing is I would like to just point out that we've been able to do all of these without a property tax increase and without water rate increases. Those have been, so that's been huge. We know that the budgets are tight for everybody and that inflation is high. So we just wanted to kind of point out some of those. With the, people have had a couple of questions. The development that is happening next to the freeway up here at Anderson Junction, that is Sapp Brothers. That is going to be a travel center. We'll have some restaurants with it, and that will be across from the RV park. So that's what's going on right there. They're grading, they're moving a lot of dirt. On the west side of Anderson Junction, that's Jerry Eves' property. He's here tonight. They'll be grading very soon. I know these on the agenda. So those are kind of some things that are happening in the area. We met today with Ash Creek for Ash Creek Sewer Special Service District, talking about the reuse line that will bring reused water up through Tokerville. So that's ongoing. Those discussions are ongoing. When it comes to the parkway, a couple of things with that. I know that council asked that I just explain the funding model of that. I guess there was a lot of confusion on Facebook of how that project works. That project is a public-private partnership. It's been funded by the Utah State Legislature. It was done in conjunction with obviously private developers through a PID, through Firelight's PID specifically. And the city, as that project went along, there are 3 basic property owners along that. The right-of-way was secured along there. So the actual 120-foot right-of-way belongs to the city. We've got the right-of-way, but the legislature has funded that road. So when people see things on the agenda that say, oh, there's a change order or things like that, that is not Tokerville City that is paying for that. Now, are we the ones writing the check? Yes, because the state has passed through those funds to the city, but that is legislative funding that has come down to pay for that. So when you see a change order or something like that, it's being paid for out of legislative funding. That is not Tokerville City tax dollars. So we felt like that was important to clarify. What's happening down on the cut, I'm sure you noticed, we have had, so this project was built in 2 phases. There's phase A that ran from up here on the north side, and it came all the way down across the racetrack. And then as it started down Westville, right there, that junction, that's where package B started. Package A was constructed by William Charles. Package B is currently under construction by JP Excavating, Judd Palmer, and they are doing a great job. When they blasted the cut down there, they have built the utility structure. They started through the cut, and some of the dirt up at the top, it fractured, started cracking, and started to move. So we've had meetings about this, and we've called in different geotechnical firms to submit proposals on what to do and to give their expert opinion on that. AGC has been contracted with to do that. They actually ended up pushing dirt off the top. We felt like that was in the public's best interest, that we would push it before it would slip or slide. And so that's what's happened down there on the cut. So they pushed it before it could slide off. So now they're currently trucking that dirt out of it. And we've contracted with AGC to make sure it's safe, working conditions, make sure that they push enough, but not too much. And they're doing an evaluation on that. So that's what's happening on the cut. The anticipated, in discussions with the contractor, they're anticipating that they will be done within 3 to 4 months, that they can have that project complete within about 4 months. So we're super excited about that. It's been a very long ongoing project. But that's kind of the breakdown of the Parkway. So if you have questions, you can always give us a call. But that's what we've got going on down there. I think, is that kind of an overview that's, sufficient for questions? And then a couple other things we just wanted to say on the economic growth. A couple of different meetings. I sit on it's called the AAC with the Water Board. It's an advisory committee. And so we talk about different things and then we make recommendations. It's kind of the equivalent of what Planning Commission is to City Council. You hear things and you make a recommendation. And we do the same thing at the Water District. The regional water supply agreement is currently it's going through a revision. So we're working on that. One of the other things that happened at our last meeting is that Virgin wanted to join. They asked if they could join the Water District. And so that was considered. It was recommended, the AAC recommended to the board that Virgin would have to join Ash Creek Special Sewer District before they would be able to join the Water District, so that those two will run hand in hand. So that's where we are with that. That's ongoing. They are attempting to join. They have a meeting, their next meeting, I think on the 21st. We met with Mike Chandler today. I think it's on the 21st. Virgin will be hearing that. So anyway, they'll be making a recommendation. Also, I attended What's Up Down South. The main messages there were addressing housing shortages. Jenny, I know you were there with us and the mayor. And it was housing shortages, economic development, and tourism primarily. So they had the mayor's messages. Washington City was very heavy on developments, presenting themselves as a city of tomorrow. They have been voted like best place to start a business, and City of St. George was second beyond that. It was just interesting to see what all the different cities are up to, and kind of some of those different partnerships. Ivan's talked a lot about Black Desert and that resort that's going in there. City of St. George talked a lot about Desert Color and that development they've got there. And so ours, obviously, we've got a lot going on in Tokerville. So the Dixie Transportation Expo was today. Hopefully people had a chance to go to that. It was really nice to see everybody that was there. It's held annually at the Dixie Center. That's put on by the City of St. George, but it has everyone from the MPO to UDOT, all of the different cities. You can see where the new Suntran line is going, things like that. One other quick thing before I'm just going to do the calendar of events. We have our website is going to be live. And Daisy, I don't know if you want to just pull it up. It's going to be live on the 28th. We're still going through formatting, but this is what it will look like. We've got across the top the services. Most things can be found at the top under I Want To, but down at the bottom, it's just going to show agendas. You'll be able to see all the upcoming agendas, file online for building permits. We've got Express Bill Pay is probably the main thing that we wanted to highlight on here, that we want everybody to start using Express Bill Pay if at all possible. That post almost automatically, to your account. So lots of different things on there. You'll see the public notices, those plans I mentioned are on there. And then we'll have news sections in the calendar. So those are just some things that are upcoming. And then an overview that hopefully will, answer some questions. So if you have other questions, you can always reach out. But I'll be here through the grading ordinance discussion, and then So, thanks.
Thank you, Afton. Do any commissioners have any questions for Afton?
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that.
Thanks for getting online bill pay.
You got it.
Okay, we'll move on to item E, business items. Number 5. Discussion on ordinance 2024, grading ordinance amending and restating Tocqueville City Code 10-18B to modify the grading process. So let's start with, Jerry, would you like to come talk about your thing here to start with?
We're doing the grading ordinance first. Are we doing the grading ordinance first? Yes.
Doing the
Isn't that what we wanted to do first? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, number 5, the grading.
Sorry, Jerry, sorry.
Jared Bates. Jared. Jared.
Everything shifted in my eyes, so.
Yeah, the grading ordinance, but Jared Bates is here from Rosenberg.
Yes, Jared.
Associates. So.
Yeah, so I've met with the staff here with Tocqueville City and just to discuss the grading ordinance. I know it's been something that's been worked on for a couple months. And so Afton, do you want me just to kind of go through it or what do we want to, or do you want to just open up to questions, or do you guys have comments from the planning commission, or how do we want to go through this?
Well, so typically there's a background sheet.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that probably should be explained just to the public too, to kind of answer some questions.
Sorry.
When something gets placed on the agenda, we have a background sheet, just in transparency.
So
we
let's
took
start
it
with
from the-
Riker then.
Yeah, we took it from the
Thank you.
Transportation Commission, and then we just altered it to Tocqueville. So it'll have some background about what it is, how it got here, why it's on the agenda, explanations just so the public knows what we're talking about.
So with this ordinance, it was drafted to modify the grading process. The ordinance was presented to the Planning Commission on December 13th of 2023. This ordinance was drafted by staff in coordination with Rosenberg Associates, and the ordinance has been placed in ordinance format and has gone through legal review. Yeah, and so it's before you for public hearing and for your consideration.
Okay. Any commissioners have any questions for Riker?
No, just on your, it says December 13th, 2024. You change that to 2023.
Okay. So we have a public hearing on this.
We're going to hear us discussion after public hearing.
Yes. So we'll open the public hearing. If there's any input on ordinance 2024 grading ordinance, submitting restating Tocqueville City Code 10-18B to modify the grading process. So there's 3 minutes.
Hi, Scott McCall with Firelight. Is that on? Okay, just have a couple of comments. Read through the published draft. We support it, have a couple of comments for consideration. So I always read the sections wrong, but it is on page 2, the first paragraph of the draft. The second half of that first paragraph where it starts, any such permitted use, I think that'll cause confusion about whether that negates the ability to do an engineered grading draft, which comes later in the ordinance. So I'd like that to be, I probably need a lawyerly opinion on that. Is that anything that could be construed to not allow an individual engineered grading plan?
I'm still trying to find where you're referencing, Scott. So I'm on page 2.
Okay, page
What
2,
paragraph?
first paragraph, second half. any such permitted use that requires.
Okay, I'm following you. So your question is a permitted use that requires a building permit. So outside of this particular chapter, you're wondering,
My concern is, the engineered grading plan is something we want to be able to do. It's a pad that does not require an end use. Am I looking at that? Is that in any way in opposition with doing a engineered grading plan without an end user? We just want to do a pad.
right. So this ordinance update will allow that. So it can get something that's pad
Okay.
grade. You do not have to identify a site plan for an
That's
end
all I
use.
needed to hear. Just needed that. And then I've got number 2 is the proof of land ownership. I'd like to request that an affidavit from the landowner authorizing grading would allow you not to have to be the owner of the property to get a grading permit. If the owner gives you permission, legal permission, I think that's an ability that we will want in that ordinance.
That's at the end. It's in the end of it.
It is number A3.
I think if we scroll down, Daisy, and we'll go through this.
It's just the proof of land ownership item. That's all. And then my third and last thing is where it says eliminate scars from cuts and fills. And that is on page 6. I think that word eliminate is impossible to achieve. So I'd just suggest maybe a word like minimize or something like that. But eliminate a scar when it's a cut or fill kind of seems not achievable. Those are my only thoughts.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any public comment? State your name and where you live.
I'm not going to tell you where I live. Anita Eaton, a couple of comments about grading permits. When a subdivision is built, obviously there's grading that happens with roads, and being able to bring in the individual services to those lots. The landowner, or sorry, when that subdivision is turned over and lots are sold, I don't know that a secondary or a new grading permit necessarily needs to be done for something that is a subdivision, but maybe one that is a meets and bounds description has a grading permit. Otherwise, you're double dipping. The city's double dipping on that. If a subdivision has multiple phases, though, and let's say first phase number 1 has a grading permit, that they can't just take the filled material or the excess material and place that in a second phase without a grading permit also being, or a bond being posted in security for the city, that if that second phase is never built, or there is a bankruptcy or something like that, the economy tanks, that the city is not left with that expense or eyesore. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any additional comments? Okay, I move to close the public hearing. And okay, any discussion for commissioners?
Yeah, I have a few going through this, and thank you guys for your hard work and things like that. I'm trying to find it again. I went through it. One of the things is in the annual review or expiration, at the end of it, it says the zoning administrator or the city designee shall review and approve grading permits annually from the date of approval. Up before in the document, it says the zoning person will be in charge. The review of the zoning administrator shall determine the adequacy of the application and everything. I just think that probably should be the same. I found that to be a problem when in our county is they named me to put it, and then I left, and then they had to rechange the whole ordinance because it was the building official or the deal. So that was just one comment. It should be the same. And then, and there's another section in here where it says the same thing right after. It just repeats itself. The
Hey,
same-
Dean, can you call out the section and
Okay.
on
Let me
that
go
so that we can make notes?
Okay, here's one. 10.18B-2A. It says
What
application.
page are you on?
Oh, page 2, sorry. Second paragraph from the bottom. It says it in a couple of places. Application of the review process, the grading permit application forms may be obtained from the city hall and shall be submitted to the zoning administrator. The application must be signed by the property owners. And then it goes in another place, it states where everything has to be reviewed by the zoning administrator. At the top of that page, it does too. Zoning administrator searches the existing of the location of any underground. And then down at the bottom, it says zoning administrator and/or the designee. I just hoping it'd be the same wording throughout. Matt, it says,
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
It's
got that noted.
Okay.
18B-11 is the one that mentions zoning administrator or city designee.
right, and then up there on the exemption, everything's at the top of the page is zoning administrator. Trying to find where it says the same thing twice, just a couple paragraphs down.
The city zoning administrator and city designee is also referenced in section 12 under enforcement.
Yeah, it's quite a few times throughout there. And then plans, I'm trying to find it where it says the same thing twice. Maybe I'll find that and then show staff. We don't need to take it.
Just that.
Yeah, we don't need to,
To be more uniform in the document.
right.
Okay.
And that, and I brought, well, I'll bring it up. I don't know if I bring it up now or later. Yeah, I'll bring it up in the mapping discussion on one of the maps. I don't know if it fits here, but we were talking about the land use permission for grading and things like that. Typically, and hopefully this happens with the owner or the applicant, if you do a major grading or excavation project, it affects the property of the land and affects what you're doing. Typically, in any incident, if you have a lien on that land or a bank owner or something, they have to be aware of that and be in agreement because it's changing that. In another application, I'll show where if you're changing the property line adjustment and everything, you have to have the bank notified so they know that it's changing the legal description of the land. So I don't know.
We'll do that one in a little bit on the map, when we get to that one, yeah.
Okay.
We can definitely do that during the actual permit.
Right.
And require that as part of the zoning administrator could be one of those things that we require.
That would be great.
Definitely. I agree with you there.
Yeah. Okay. That's all the comments I have.
Anybody else have any comments on this? Jenny?
I do not.
No? Go for it.
Yeah. It's just a grammatical thing.
Okay.
On page 3 at the bottom, the number 9, the IX, it says the location of any buildings or structures on adjacent property, which is, and it should be which are, because it's buildings or structures which are within. Sorry.
Okay. No, thank you.
And there, I can't read my own notes, but the word permittee is spelled 2 different ways. There's, in one of them, it has 1 T, and most of them, it has 2 Ts. So I just think it should be consistent.
We can be consistent.
But otherwise, I think it looks great.
Rob, you have anything?
I don't. I think it's pretty thorough.
So my only concern on this one is, and Matt and I chatted about this just briefly before the meeting, is protecting single-family homeowners that they wouldn't have to go through all of the steps that a multifamily or a commercial owner would, of spending $1,000 for the engineering plans for them to do. It was brought up that, you have a subdivision that gets a grading permit to do all the pads in the streets and everything. And then somebody buys a lot and then they've got to do a grading plan to build their house when that lot was just had a grading plan done on it. Or someone builds a house and now they've got to do a grading plan to do their landscaping, and it states, less than 2,000 square feet, but to do your landscaping, or it also states,
Cubic yards.
cubic yard, yes. But it also states, like in the residential landscaping, it states if filling or clearing that does not disturb the natural grade of more than 2,000 square feet or result in the change in the natural grade shall be exempt.
No.
So anything you do could change the natural grade. I mean, you could add a foot on this end and take a foot out of there, and that's going to change the natural grade. And I understand we need to protect drainage and things like that. But I guess my big question of all of that is there a way that we can make it so that residential owners, single-family homeowners are not burdened with an extra $1,000 and the steps to go through to get a grading permit just to do their landscaping, or put a garden in that's more than 2,000 square feet?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why we have these exemptions are here is I'm also the floodplain administrator for the town, and we've run into a lot of issues to where, like people are building walls. There's concerns that way that the walls aren't engineered, or there's something that could negatively impact the drainage. So there's concerns that way. I think for the most part, the exceptions are there will work for probably almost any normal residential scenario. Even if they hire a landscaper, there shouldn't be. Sorry, there's a caveat in here that I wrote specifically that states, to not modify the elevation of the existing ground. So basically, if there is some sort of cut and fill, let's say they're raising it 2 feet in one area and lowering it in another area, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, staff-wise, I think that, Darren, we would be concerned about that. We would want to see that. Because if you're doing that and you're using a piece of heavy equipment, you might have a mini X, but it might be, a loader. So I think that there's limits that I think we're concerned about, that things that could happen that we've seen in the review process recently, that we feel like not having the permit, not having this review is concerning.
And I think it still falls under that number one, under the 1018B2. A1 is under that minor grading permit, and it's basically on a case-by-case basis. We had one that came through for Choya Creek that, we're not going to do much, but there's so much relief from the street to the stream, and then it went through the stream as well. And we've had to comply with FEMA, so FEMA came into place a little bit, so it's made it go. But the actual permit was only was $300. It wasn't thousands and thousands of dollars. The grading permit, and we didn't require them to get that because the landscaper, when they built the house, like you were saying, I think it was 2 or 3 years after they built the original house, they still had their site plan, and the landscaper was able to come in. So this is what we're planning on doing here. We're going to have some walls here, and then the thing that triggered it was that the walls were going to be 12 feet high, the retaining walls. And then you start going, oh, that's a little bit more than a couple feet. And what's that going to do to the next door neighbor as far as drainage, those types of things? And so we tried to get it. And if you think of the 1,000 cubic feet, some truck loads,
It's a lot.
it's like 83.
Right.
Loads.
So it's 100.
So that's quite if you're sitting there and you've got a new home in a subdivision, and your neighbor's now bringing 83 cubic yard or 83 dump truck loads, that's quite a bit. They're still following under that minor lot grading.
That part does, but then it conflicts when it says if you're changing any of the elevation of it. So, and if you're bringing in 83 truckloads, you're certainly changing the elevation. You know, if you're filling a pond in, with like what we're referring to kind of,
I think
that,
Matt, so, and we were, and I completely, you know, this, to make a one size fits all ordinance.
right.
For somebody that's doing landscaping compared to somebody that's doing mass grading, if we want to say, call it that. You know, so I think that we left that so that they could come in, bring us like what we're saying, the map that they're recreated when they did their site plan for their house. And then, but it left it up to the zoning administrator. Obviously, you're gonna look at that with a lot of reason and say, you know, this really doesn't, you know, require a engineered plans. And I think that we had city council have that same comments before, was on a different ordinance, was that we just don't think that we need to, if somebody wants to landscape their yard or change the landscaping in their yard, they don't need to go through thousands of dollars to add landscaping to their yard. But when they have significant relief of 10 or 12, 15 feet of difference from the front of their lot to the back of the lot, we just want to, there again, make sure that things are created correctly. If it's only a couple of feet, I don't know that we're going to require any type of grading permit.
Okay. So I guess my thinking is, if it requires a grading permit, correct me if I'm wrong, you need to have an engineered, in this ordinance, you need to have the engineered site plan and engineered grading.
But not for minor grading.
For minor.
Not for minor grading. And maybe we need to make some clarification in there, but I don't think we were trying to, for minor, we weren't trying to do that. We were
Yeah.
trying not to.
The only thing that would be required on a minor grading plan is if there were walls that needed to be engineered, and that would be following building code.
And yes,
Anyways.
exactly. That's still covered by the
Yeah.
building code.
So if you hired a landscape company or a landscape architect to design your yard, that should be enough and to be able to use those drawings, submit it with your application, and the city staff can evaluate that. The zoning administrator can address that. So that lower level, we're not requiring everything be engineered. But if you're getting into a large volume where it's an engineered grading plan, yes, we want to see engineered, we want to see design, drawings, all of those technical elements.
Okay.
And before we didn't have that 1,000 cubic feet. We added that because we realized that, you know, upgrading, you can do quite a bit with 83 truck loads and not impact it really, you know, a ton.
So how do we reconcile that 83 truckloads versus changing the elevation?
Well, let's say somebody wanted to bring in and they wanted to raise their backyard so that it drains positively to the street. They wanted to bring it up a couple feet, 3 or 4 feet. You can easily bring in that much dirt.
Right. I'm just saying if we're not requiring a grading permit to bring in 1,000 yards, but yet we're changing the existing elevation of the property, how do we reconcile those two pieces with it? And I mean, I'm all for not requiring a grading permit on minor things. You know that very well with me, Riker.
I was just going to say, as the ordinance reads right now, you'd still be required to submit a grading permit, but it would be a minor grading permit, which wouldn't require the engineering.
Which is just a drawing.
Correct.
That's what I want to make sure. Okay.
As the language reads right now, if I'm correct on that.
Yeah, that's correct. You could come in with a drawing. Technically, you could draw that yourself as an owner. And part of that is under the minor grading application, the zoning administrator can say, okay, who put this together? Was this just you as a homeowner? Does it have sufficient information, or is it a business that's put it together for you, or did you hire somebody to design your yard? So the zoning administrator has some leeway in determining what level of sophistication is brought in there. Now, if it's just simply, hey, I want to bring up the drainage on the property, zoning administrator can evaluate that. you start getting into some significant walls or retention walls, then they may require some more work or verifying that they're engineered walls and it's been approved by a licensed engineer.
Which that would have to be done under the building permit anyway, so, right, okay.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jared, but our 2,000 square feet, that's pretty consistent with building code. That's why that was selected is kind of a threshold number. And so we're certainly open to any additional comments or recommendations on the exceptions. So under 18B-1, it's right on the bottom of page 1 into 2, but in particular subsection B on page 2. That's where we're identifying the exemptions. One of those being agricultural, 2, the minor residential landscaping issues, and then 3, those that are not exceeding 2,000 square feet, and really they're consistent with the natural grade. And then, of course, the city and its public facility projects. But if this commission feels like there's other exemptions we can look at, we'd certainly be happy to entertain those. But we felt like as we met with the staff, Jared's input, legal counsel, we were hoping that was getting enough of a tiered approach that not everybody's going to be subject to a grading permit if they want to go out and move rocks or plant flowers in their flower bed.
So my brain keeps bringing me back to this, does not modify the elevation of existing ground. So like under agricultural.
Right.
You're doing that all the time. You know, just to keep watering, you have to keep modifying that. So if someone's got a field that they're planted, you're wanting even under a minor, bring in a hand drawn, I'm changing this. That's, to me, that's just, it's excessive.
I think that the concern that we run into, again, I think you guys have run into here locally, is you've got someone owns a large tract of land and they put up a couple of berms out there. And that adjusts where the stormwater goes and it runs into your neighbor's property, and now you've caused a problem. That for that reason right there, it's not appropriate to get out there and change where the water goes. So in that case, if you do adjust the ground that's out there, say on a big farm field that changes drainage, I think that has to have a permit to be reviewed.
See, and that just happens all the time.
But it shouldn't. There shouldn't be any work on your farm that modifies where the drainage goes off your site. It should always.
Correct. You shouldn't be doing that. And that landowner should be held accountable for that.
And so-
But to require a rancher, a farmer to come and get I'm ignoring you. To come in and get a grading permit, even if it is a drawing, just because they want to remove some rocks and to level their field so they can plant more or change an area to plant.
So one of the things we've had is and I'm not going to say it, just we've had an instance that they did more than move some rocks and grade a little bit.
Yes.
They went in and moved a considerable amount of dirt, created an issue as to where it wasn't draining before into the creek. And then they moved off, they built, I could see why they were building pens and things like that, corrals for horses, animals, different things like that, which is completely, there shouldn't be a grading permit, I agree. But when they move so much dirt, that drainage now makes the drainage go off into the river or onto the adjacent property owner, then we've got some issues.
Right.
Just if that's going to happen. So how do our thought process through that was, how do we require, because obviously every instance is going to be different. Somebody could just move rocks to help the irrigation be better on one tier to another tier of their own property. We're not trying to get a grading permit for that, or even moving 1,000 yards or
Right.
2,000 yards.
But this doesn't say that necessarily.
Well, there's either the.
So I don't know how we fix that.
Well, so there's a list of exemptions, right? And those are the things that don't require a grading permit. And those are listed there, so agricultural, creating, excavation, filling, or clearing of agricultural purposes within agricultural zone that does not modify the elevation of the existing ground. So if it does modify the ground elevations out there, then we want a minor grading permit, and that doesn't have to be prepared by an engineer, but it's got to have a map and got to show what work's going to happen. I mean, if you're going to spend 2 weeks on a tractor moving all that ground out there, you can spend 30 minutes and drop a plan and give to Darren.
Mostly that's just so that we can see that your intention isn't to grade on your neighbor. Because when it does start grading and draining on your neighbor, then we have to have, it's like, well, they said they weren't going to do this. And I can see exactly what you're talking about as well as for agricultural. Agricultural it was a very difficult topic for us as we went through that. And maybe we put some verbiage in there, I don't know, Matt, about that we just see an exhibit that shows the grading that is going to stay on their property or something with drainage.
See, and that's my thinking is if you're going to change the elevation of the property through grading, and if it's going to modify it sufficiently that it's going to drain on your neighbor's property, then you should have a grading permit. But if you're keeping it on your own property, I don't understand why we're requiring a homeowner or a agricultural person to get a grading permit if you're keeping it on your own property.
Yeah, and as we talked about on the homeowner situation, it's more, there it is, the drainage on it to your adjacent homeowners, or there's scenarios such as the retaining walls or things such as that.
Right.
That do need to be.
But that's covered under that,
Whole different, yeah, that's a whole.
under the building permits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, like you're saying though, the home's already built, so it's not a building permit.
So do we want to update the language there on agriculture to some of the effect, to not modify drainage or to not, some of the effect to say it's not going
It will not leave
it won't negatively impact the adjacent property? I mean,
yeah, that would be good.
Simply say that.
That's kind of what I'm,
I think what you're talking about here is, say it's a 20-acre tract of ground, right? And you can drive your tractor out there, you can change stuff, but if it doesn't impact your neighbor, then I think we're okay with it. But I guess, I don't know, is there any way to, yeah, I think we're okay with that. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think what we don't want is the scenario that you mentioned before where it did happen and it really caused some problems.
Yeah.
but I can understand that.
Yeah, that was basically, we were now adding water that had never entered into the creek in a different spot. And, there again, are you in the floodplain or in the floodway or different things such as that?
Right.
That's kind of even a different permit. But when you have that scenario happening, that's the biggest problem. And we'd have, on a 10% grade, which is our biggest grade that we have before you start falling into the hillside or sensitive
Right.
lands ordinance, that, in 100 feet, you have 10 feet of elevation difference just from the front of the lot to the back of the lot. And so with that, we have a lot of homes. We have the Wall subdivision, we have Choya Creek, we have Trail Ridge Estates. We have other places in town that will become that way, that we need to continue. And people don't always finish their backyard landscaping. We have no issues with that, other than when they come back, they don't build walls that are bigger than
Right.
our ordinance or anything like that. Not this ordinance, we're talking about the wall ordinance, retaining
Correct.
wall ordinance. So anyway, it's definitely got its challenges, but I think possibly, and I don't know, Matt, if you thought that something like that would, that made just adding what Jared was talking about that would not impact the adjacent property negatively.
I think what we could do is you change, so B1, you remove the wording that says that does not modify the elevation of the existing ground. And you could strike that phrase and replace it with that does not negatively impact adjacent property with respect to drainage or other, or similar, yeah, or just
Right.
drainage, just like that. If you can change that, I think we can agree to that.
And then we want to make sure we leave in the you can't be changing the grading on agriculture if you're using it for non-agriculture. Yeah, we want to protect that also. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else? All right. Does that make sense, Riker?
Yes, I have replacing that with that does not negatively impact adjacent property in regards to drainage.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other discussion then? Okay,
Perfect.
and it looks like we are,
This is just under discussion, so they'll take it back and
This has actually got a,
no,
I believe, does it not?
this is
comment with,
Possible recommendation.
possible recommendation.
with the additions.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
Yeah, so you as a commission, you can make, you'll make a recommendation based on this draft, whether you want to adopt what's been discussed or something further. Then you'll pass that recommendation on to the the city council. And they'll make final edits, determinations, accept recommendations or decline. So tonight you can take an action to the extent that you move something forward with recommendation.
which we would include whatever,
Which would just,
That's right.
the comments that have been made or any additional comments that whoever wants to make that motion.
Say, I move that we recommend that the city council adopt this ordinance with the revisions we've suggested tonight.
Yeah. That's correct.
Does that work? Sounds like we have a motion.
So move.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passed. Thank you. Okay, now to business item number 1. Discussion of possible recommendation on resolution 2024-XX City Council Planning Commission Annual Meeting Schedule. So with this item, Riker, do you want to give us your spill?
Go ahead on this one. I
Okay.
don't have a background sheet for this.
Okay, so this item, as we've all heard, the things coming up with that Riker had explained, that Darren has explained, we have pretty full agendas coming. So in our packet there, it shows a couple of different options of changing our meeting schedule. One of them is starting the second Wednesday of each month, and the second meeting being on the fourth Tuesday. Another option is a second Wednesday and the fourth Wednesday. So if it comes that there's nothing on the agenda, we're going to cancel that meeting. I think it's a lot easier to cancel a meeting than it is to schedule one, and it throws the people off. They go, wait a minute, I didn't know about this meeting coming. I think in most cases we'll have items.
I'd say most instances we
Yeah.
will have something for you. And maybe Riker would like to speak to this, but I believe, it's not going to necessarily with your public hearings, it's not going to speed a process up or at all. We still follow the same process. And time-wise, with the 10-day notice that's required by the state, it still will fall to your next month
Right.
agenda most of the time, because you don't, between the 7 days or 8 days, you won't have enough time to make the changes, or staff make the changes, get that on the public websites. But there's a lot of benefits by having that.
And I think this will keep from having the 5-hour meetings that we've had in the past and keep them down to 1 or 2 hours. Because I have found for myself, after 4 hours, I'm mentally done. And so anyway, so I guess what I'm looking for, so we need to get, forward this to the city council because they approve our schedule. So is there any discussion on this?
I thought we had talked about doing the first meeting on Tuesday, the second meeting on Wednesday, so they had a little bit more time to get, and this is reversed, but
Yeah, so there's another one that shows the first one on the Tuesday and the fourth one on a Wednesday.
On the screen, you can see those up here, the big screens.
these are
I gave
Wednesday.
2 different options.
Well, this is Wednesday, and the second one is the first the second Wednesday and the fourth Tuesday. So it's just reverse of what we had talked about.
She added another one in there
Oh,
that
I
shows
didn't-
Tuesday and the 4th is the Wednesday.
It's right below that one now. In the SharePoint.
So the
I'm not
thinking on that
seeing it.
was that gives staff one extra day. I'm
This arrow?
good either way. Because it really, like you said, it really doesn't speed that up.
The public hearing.
Okay.
So maybe it is better to just keep them all on Wednesdays than the public
Yeah.
are used to it. And
Yeah, true.
the first,
Wednesdays are easier for me.
pardon me.
Yeah, I work late on Tuesdays and Thursdays and
So let's just keep them Wednesdays.
Wednesdays are.
Well, and that way we wouldn't be going, wait a minute, is it Tuesday this week
Right.
or is it Wednesday?
Right, right.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so with me, the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday, because I'm pretty out of town on other business on the last week of the month, every month.
So the third Wednesday is city council.
Yeah,
Oh,
So it needs to be second,
the second.
the second.
Have to be
and then the
second
fourth.
and fourth.
And that's fine too. So, but that would work. And this time I got two grandsons, same age, getting married on those.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm.
And we're
hosting
gonna
the-
all have those things, yes.
Right, and that is one thing about this is, everyone's gonna miss
Yeah.
meetings at times.
Yeah.
Just let Daisy or myself know, and, and that's just the way it is, but just let us know.
So does that clarify, being new, if we let you know, then the alternate can come and sit in?
Correct.
And then that doesn't count as
Correct.
missing? Okay.
As long as you let us know that you're
Sure.
not gonna be here, it's the, not notifying is the
That's
one
the
where
issue.
you,
Well,
Okay.
I schedule a year ahead of time, so my schedule's.
go
I
ahead.
would prefer Wednesdays because Tuesdays I can't, but
So you wanna make a motion?
So Stacy?
Oh, yes.
as we through discussing it or.
Sorry, Gary. So this is the schedule, the ones with, these are the Wednesdays here, the ones with the stars, we have conflict. So the February 28th meeting, that's our, State of the City over at the Springs Event Center. So the ones with the stars, April 24th are Spring Social. So do you want to change those dates? Because I know you guys usually participate
Yes.
in the city.
Yes,
meetings.
Those are the two dates I
Like
have
Pioneer
weddings.
Day and then Christmas. So we just need to
Correct.
revise those before sending it forward.
okay. So any other questions, discussion? Does that make sense what Daisy was saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
And it's on the agenda item sheet as well.
So what's,
so we just need a motion to have, recommend to the city council that they approve the new planning commission agenda. Taking into account the dates that Daisy is changing.
which one are we on? The one here?
So you're changing them all to Wednesdays?
So they'll be on Wednesday.
So it'll be
So it'll be the
just
second and
second
fourth
back to the
fourth.
red day.
Wednesday of the month.
Second and fourth. Okay. If we just don't make it, just notify and.
Just let us know.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd make a motion that if we're going to hold two planning commission meetings a month, that we do it the second and fourth Wednesdays.
correct.
I
With-
second the motion.
With, one sec, with the caveat that there will be a couple of days that will be changed that Daisy was talking about that fall on those holidays or socials.
Right.
So should
Correct.
we reschedule the 28th one right now since that's the next one?
We can move those to Tuesday like we did for tonight's.
Yeah, so it'll be the 27th instead of 28th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and would you like to do that throughout?
Sure.
For the other ones as well?
Yes, please. Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
So
Second.
Riker.
just to
Yes,
point out, moving December 25th to Tuesday is still going to be December 24th.
I move
Just
that
so
we
that you
just
guys are
don't
aware.
have one that week.
we didn't we move that to 23rd
Sounds good to me.
before. Yeah,
Or just not have one. A second one in December,
Yeah.
the busy time.
Boy, especially for moms.
what does staff think on that?
Well,
I'll do whatever.
Yeah, but we can always cancel them, like city council for the 4th of July. Sometimes we can't get a quorum, so we've canceled that one and then just have a
Okay.
second meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you on
Can
that,
go
Jenny.
close. Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
do that as we go,
Decide that
right?
when we're closer.
Right.
That's fine.
And I don't want
Okay.
city staff to have to make 2 meetings. I've been there too many years,
Right.
30 years of being to meeting every night.
Yeah.
And you guys have families and things like that. So hopefully, if you don't have something bounding, you just don't hold it.
Yeah, correct.
Everybody's gonna be, it's their emergency, they need it and stuff, and sometimes you just gotta say, hey, wait.
Okay. So motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed, unanimous. Okay, business item E2. Discussion and possible action on a lot line adjustment application submitted by Jeff and Keisha Fry, located 590 South Toker Boulevard. Tax ID number T-125-D-1-A and T-125-C. Current zoning is agriculture A1. Riker.
Okay, this lot line adjustment application was submitted to staff and has been deemed complete as per Title 10, Chapter 19, Article G of the Tokerville City Code. In addition to that, there were some staff comments that were provided today in your packets that addressed each of the individual items that were gone through and the things that are required both on the application and in the code. And then just to point out, again, as a reminder, with lot line adjustments, the planning commission makes the decision on those. So this isn't something that's recommended to the city council. It's either approved or denied by the planning commission.
Thank you. Okay. Any comments on that? Or then
I would
we can
have
listen
the
to
applicant come up.
Jeff?
Jeff Fry, 1180 South Joy Creek. So the purpose of this is the original lot. It's 2 lots, it's 2 tax IDs, but there's 1 tax ID in the middle, and it's kind of island by another tax ID that is just 1 lot. So we're just trying to make it so it looks way more uniform, more into what everything else is in the city, so that the 2 tax IDs are just 2 properties instead of 3 properties with 1 in the middle of 2 different tax, or one with the same tax ID, but they're not physically connected.
Contiguous.
So that's our purpose behind this. We just trying to help better the property as we help. Any questions?
Just a couple. I went down there and looked at it and walked it today. Looking at it, it only makes sense what you're trying to do and to get it in compliance with everything else with the 1 acre requirement for ag zoning. The house does meet the setbacks and everything else. I see that. There is a challenge for you on the old Pioneer Road easements and then that easement with the ditch down below. Irrigation ditch that's farther up and down to make that a buildable lot, but you could make it a buildable lot if you wanted to put something in there.
Right, so that's not our goal at this moment, is for us to do anything with it. We're just trying to make it so it's more uniform, so that the bottom property where we've got the huge gazebo and thing is actually part of the house. And it's all on the same lot.
I guess just to ask you, if it was developed and buildable, do you have legal access to that on the other lot, the lot?
So according to what we had to do with UDOT in order to make it a nightly rental, I had to put in a new driveway so that it was line of sight, because 50 miles an hour is not enough for the current. However, the reasoning that was given there was because it wasn't people that were from town that would be using the old entrance. My understanding as well, there isn't anything that shows that Old Pioneer Road is actually a road with easements on it.
Just that
It
one.
shows up everywhere on Google Maps and everything else, but as far as what our title people could find, there weren't anything that says that it has a right of way, that it is a road that's supposed to be connected.
With that 10-inch water line in there too?
So
Yeah. Well, I could see,
Water line is different than a right of way of a road.
okay, right. And I could see that, and I saw where you put the new access in and things like that. But what I'm questioning, do you have access to the other partial north of that. If you want, you can't have you got to have legal access to each parcel.
Correct, but we don't have to create that legal access while it's just a lot that we own, while it's adjacent to the one that we have now. Because technically, right now, the way that the lot lines are right now, it doesn't have legal access.
Let's see.
So I'm not trying to create more problems, I'm just trying to slowly pick at a 5-year plan of fixing things. It's not all gonna be fixed in one go.
Okay. And then one other question, and this is where I brought it up, that when you change property lines and everything, and I don't know if you have a bank loan or a lien on the properties or something, was the bank notified that they know you're doing that because it changes the deeds?
So we only have a loan on the middle tax ID, which is where the home is located. The other part we own.
But that will still change the legal description of the tax ID.
They're happy to take on more land. Because right now they only have 1 acre, now they're gonna have almost 2.
Anything else? Thank you, Jeff. Let's see, is this? So this isn't a public hearing, so anything else amongst us have any questions? Okay. Yes.
One thing, Dean, is we could require that the applicant just get us a letter from his lender that states that they are fine with this lot line adjustment and that they're fine that way.
Do that, banks are notorious for not getting those for 6 months to a year. If he's dealing with a regular mortgage company, countrywide.
Matt, I guess I would lean to your opinion.
Yeah,
there
from
then.
the experience I've had, when you're changing fee title, sometimes it literally takes a lawsuit to bring a bank in. Probably the biggest issue I've ever dealt with legal-wise is the subdivision was off in terms of the main marker. So your legal description for all 45 lots in that subdivision were off. So we had to go back, pull in every owner. We had to pull in every bank and get everybody to sign off. And not that it changed your 0.3 acres of land, it's just how it was described. And the banks were very, very difficult. Now I realize you can have lot line adjustments that are very straightforward, have an agreement and you get it modified. I think the city should take a close look at when there's fee title being affected, as Dean's mentioned, fee title. Yes, that's something that's going to impact a bank and its security interests via deed of trust. If we're talking about the condition or nature or the layout of property, but it's not a title issue, I would urge caution for the city to come in and say there's a requirement to give the bank notice, whether it's the owner, the applicant, or the city itself. Because if that notice doesn't get out or they don't respond, you either potentially created a liability where the bank can come back and say, hey, we were supposed to get notice. The city didn't give us notice, or the property owner didn't give us notice. But, the reality is the bank has its interest in fee title, whatever the condition of that property is, and they try to mitigate that condition of the property, say through insurance if there's a fire. But if somebody comes in and wants to redecorate with spray paint and smiley faces all over the house, the bank can't stop that, but that's going to diminish the value of the property. So in terms of what we're putting the notice, giving the banks notice, I would urge caution. The city may not want to take on that responsibility. And saying another way, liability, if the bank wants to come back and say you didn't follow your own rules.
Okay, makes sense.
It looks like if you're decreasing the size of the property where the home is, that the bank is going to be concerned about that.
It's increasing it. It's increasing the size. So
It's
if you
taking
look where
property
the
off the
old
bottom
property
and
line
adding it to
is,
the bottom.
Okay, I thought he was taking this one down.
Yeah, in the middle there, that one is the one that it's now increasing where that home is itself.
Could we do something where we have him send a certified letter and give us evidence that he has sent it and notified them? Because then we don't have to have a response from the bank and get the time. You know what I mean? If the timing is an issue.
I'm not saying you can't. You could do that, certainly.
Mhm.
The challenge what the bank has is at a fixed date when they got their loan, the bank got a legal description. And if the homeowner comes in and says later, I'm going to acquire more property and add combined parcels, the bank really doesn't mind one way or the other. They've locked in at the time they got their deed of trust and their security interest. Now, if the bank said, okay, it's in default, we come and foreclose, it's going to create an issue because they would foreclose on what their original trust deed is, which would be a smaller footprint than what is today. But that's an issue that, you know, that's an owner issue. That's not a city issue. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, looks like we're looking for a motion to either approve or deny lot line adjustment.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff's comments for approval for the lot line adjustment of application for these two parcels.
On E2. Okay,
I second.
have a motion, a second. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you. All right, item E4. Oops, E3, sorry, Jerry, I almost missed you. First I'm having you jump and then, hold on just a minute, let me get our staff comments on that, and then I'll have you come up. Discussion on preliminary plat, application submitted by Jerry Eves, located at northwest intersection I-15, SR 17, tax ID T-3-0-22-3212. Current zoning is business manufacturing zone. Riker.
Yes, so this application has been reviewed by staff and deemed complete as per Title 10, Chapter 19, Article C, Section 3 of the Tocqueville City Code, as well as Title 10, Chapter 6, which is our submittal section of the Tocqueville City Code. As you'll see in the staff comments as well, this preliminary plat was presented to the Planning Commission on December 12th of 2023. The item was tabled at that meeting, and in that meeting, Commissioner Olson made the motion to table, subject to having a traffic study done and this preliminary plat modified to comply with any recommendations of the study. The applicant has provided a letter from the traffic engineer that identifies him complying with those recommendations, and it's before you for public hearing and your recommendation.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners for staff? Okay. Jerry, why don't you have you come up and kind of explain what you're doing there? And
This is just the first phase of the 76 acres that's been identified. When I submitted to you before, it was lacking a traffic study that we have since corrected. We have modified the drawings, road cross sections as required, and I think we've met everything we need for a preliminary approval.
okay, thank you. So we'll open up a public comment period to the public. Anybody has any comments? Come on up, state your name.
My name is Doug Toller with Solera. Couple statements real quick. First of all, thank the staff. The staff has been awesome to work with. We really appreciate their cooperation. Second statement is, we support all development. We think that the west side of I-15 is a great location and very prime for development. So with that being said, based off of the traffic impact study, we would like to have the commission consider the data-driven facts about the impact study as compared to just putting an easement out there and thinking that that's going to be a long-term solution for the project and access further south on Mills Lane. Based on our traffic study, the peak is going to be about 14,254 generated trips per day. based on the Boulder Ridge, it's going to add another 11,000 trips to that area. So our ask today is that, we support the development, but our ask is that we would like to see the Anderson Junction Mills Lane connection be sized properly in the right location to create a safe environment for people to travel to and from their properties, whether it be Boulder Ridge or the Solera property, or Jason Hurst property, or anywhere along Mills Lane. A couple of issues with saying that the traffic study made recommendations. I think if you look at the final sentence on the traffic addendum letter, which is the letter I interpret as being their recommendation, if you look at the last sentence there, it clearly states that the proposed connections need further exploration to get it right. That's the last sentence on it. I've got it right here. I can read it directly if need be. It says the feasibility and design of these future connections will need to be evaluated in further detail and at a later date. So to me, that's telling me that they have not come up with a conclusion for the setting of that. If you look at the traffic impact study, the traffic impact study in the course of a very short time, 24 months or so, they're calling for the 26-foot easement that is depicted on the plat right there to be moved further to the southwest, and at least 3 lanes at the intersection of Boulder Ridge Drive and Boulder Drive. With that being said, there's a major safety issue with the way the hairpin works right now. The line of sight, as you drive up, you see the wrong light because you're coming straight back up. You're looking directly at the Boulder Ridge Drive light as compared to the Ridge Drive light. I'm getting the roads
That's okay.
confused. But, we're in a situation where technically the easement may work for today, but in the future, we have an issue on getting it
Okay.
to the right size and location. Just that
Thank you.
statement is,
I need to cut you off. Thank you, but appreciate it.
thanks.
Any other comments? You state your name and where you live.
Yeah, I'm Jason Hurst, and I live in St. George, and our family owns a parcel there next to Mr. Eves' parcel. And while we don't have any current plans for development of this property that we've owned for a long time, we're very interested in how this interchange is developed. We want to preserve our access on Mills Lane, and we hope the hairpin turn is not an ideal scenario for us. We kind of feel that it mitigates or diminishes our access somewhat, and I guess the bypass road that goes across around the hill is off the table now, which we're happy to see, but we're completely opposed to that. We feel that that's borderline to take in terms of access to our property, and so that's kind of all I'd like to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, I move to close the public hearing. So,
Chairman, I just, we could give you a little bit of a background on the traffic study. It was, we actually sat down with Mr. Eves, the traffic engineer. The traffic engineer called for a meeting to discuss this. And we stated in that basically that I stated, hey, what is your ultimate? And he did create the impacts or the traffic study as requested by the Planning Commission. It does show for future that it does need to be expanded. There needs to be additional wide roads and things. But at this point in time, the Ryan Hells from Hells Engineering, he wrote a supplemental letter that basically, as they were talking about there, is that for right now, it does meet the, he needs to make sure that he continues to keep that existing access open that's there now. And the reason that that's being shut off right now is because of the UDOT requirement to keep the 1,000 foot before we have an intersection of the frontage road, just so that you understand what happened in that meeting, and the letter that was provided by the traffic engineer.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any other questions or if Riker had anything additional.
Just that statement at the end of the letter from the traffic engineer says, however, as mentioned, the short-term condition will suffice in order to provide access to Mills Road as the frontage road is realigned through the Boulder Ridge project.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for staff now?
Sorry. So what I'm seeing here is Boulder Ridge Drive is basically 4 lanes with a median, how it's designed here. And then Boulder Ridge Drive. Is it
Just Ridge.
Ridge Drive, the one going east and west.
right. Is just basically a 2-lane and everything else. I did drive up there and go through, saw the topo and everything else. And then you have some drainage and some other things put in there. Let me ask you this. It's not our job to oversee construction. That's your guys' job. It's our job to look at it and things like that, but it is our job to make sure the other property owners are protected also, that they can do proper expansion and development of their land also. So I would ask staff, what's your recommendations? You did your staff report, it complies with everything. I know I've done this so long, an engineer can make anything say what they want to make it right, things like that. But in reality, and yes, we already know the traffic increase impact on that off-ramp and going through in both ways is going to really increase. I foresee seeing trucks backed up all the way onto the freeway. I've seen it before, getting off and on. I can see this development, and we need this kind of development. We need these kind of things. That's good for the city and it's good for the owner and the applicant and everything. But what would you guys suggest? Because we approve it, I don't want to hold the gentleman up because that's just costing him money and everything else. Don't want to hold the other guys up that's over there building theirs. I've seen it happen where it holds it and affects everything. So we make a motion with the traffic study that.
Well, so just so that you know, I'm not going to give you a recommendation because it's not really my job to give a recommendation. The facts are that the engineer and the same traffic engineer did the traffic study for Solara. They did it for Sapp Brothers and they did it for Jerry's project here. That same engineer took all of those same plans together to create his as well as theirs. And all I can say is, that based on the ordinance and the recommendations of that engineer, I have to, as staff, I've got to present that to you guys as the facts of what this is. I agree, we don't want to shut off future development or future access to that, or put future people in a position that they have to purchase more property from somebody else. The access right now is 26 feet, the improved surface there. From what I've been told from the surveyors and engineers, is that there is not a right-of-way, a recorded right-of-way or easement there. It all falls inside the UDOT right-of-way. So at best, it's a prescriptive easement, that existing frontage road there. All I can go again there off of is those professionals. I have to put my faith in that they are doing their job and giving us a correct report.
So I'd like to remind the commissioners that our job is to just follow the existing ordinances. If this meets those ordinances, then we move that direction. If it doesn't, then we state which ordinances it doesn't meet, and that's what we go off of. Our personal preference on whatever really shouldn't have a place in how we're voting. We need to just go off of what the ordinances are. And according to staff, this meets all of the ordinances. I've gone through each ordinance and looking at that, and this seems to, from everything that I can see, that it certainly follows all of our ordinances.
Attorney, do you have any comment there, question?
I really don't have anything other than, Chairman, you're correct. If it checks the boxes in terms of what the ordinance requires, then you make your recommendation based on the application.
May I ask, what would initiate UDOT doing additional studies and recommendations if they want more lanes added?
Well,
Because
UDOT's not asking for the more lanes. UDOT is just requiring a 1,000-foot stretch before there's any type of a driveway or an intersection from the off-ramp, the middle of the off-ramp. So that's how we determine the distance for the new realignment of Old Highway 91 down by the RV park. Is they went down 1,000 feet, and then they aligned that new road, shut off the bad access from the frontage road on that side, and brought in a new road.
So that's why that ridge goes over to Mill right up there. That's that 1,000 feet.
Yes, so the builder, it comes into that four-way intersection there.
That kind of looks stupid, but yeah, it's ridiculous.
It is what it is.
Yeah, now the bypass is going to be a UDOT road, Utah Transportation, isn't it?
The parkway right now?
Yeah.
Yes, we'll do a jurisdictional transfer with UDOT once the finish, and all of those details will be worked out after the construction is finished and all the things with UDOT.
The road going from the interchange down, that remains a UDOT road, a state road.
Yeah.
The part that's going to change is once you get down much further.
So here's the scenario. Well, it's not the application that's before you, so, but as far as right now, if, let's say Mr. Hirsch got up and he spoke here, he said, I just want to make sure that I still have access, that I still have frontage on a road, a right of way. This does not deny him his access or his frontage along a roadway. If Mr. Hirsch was going to do that, he would be required to do the same process that this applicant has been as well. He would have to shut off that access and figure out a different way to connect to the 1,000 feet and make it a safe intersection or a safer stretch there from the off-ramp.
So who has responsibility at Mills Road? The one along?
As far as what it is right now?
What's that?
As maintenance, or what are you talking about? So Tokerville City has maintenance. It goes in and out of three jurisdictions, both Tokerville, down lower, it's in Leeds, and then it goes into county for a short thing there on the very south end of it before it leaves our jurisdiction.
So with this improvements, putting all these roads in and everything else, who's going to pay that in between the two accesses?
It would be the applicants. Yeah, it would be the developers that have to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not blocking anybody else. They still have access to their land to Mills Road.
Yes.
And they're just going to have to follow this thing.
Yeah. It's when they come to develop, then they would have to do the same things that UDOT requires, that UDOT's requiring this applicant to do.
And farther north, it's not a very good topo and everything.
Yeah. So, the frontage road Mills Lane that goes to the north, that will be shut off as well. And this applicant is actually, you see the road there is actually tying back into the frontage roads that's there now. So both accesses will be shut off as they currently are now. And then the one to the south will come up the 25-foot or 26-foot easement. And that, how that was determined is the surveyors went out and determined what the improvements are there. The road, the dirt road that's there is approximately on an average 26 feet wide.
So I also noticed when I went up that today, excuse me, that there's, where it dead ends access, there's a trailhead there that says Pine Valley, 17 miles, and 2 other places. Pine, is that going to get shut down? Looks like they're ATV trails.
They're actually,
I don't know. Go ahead.
those are actually
This property.
non-motorized trails because it goes up there towards wet sandy and dry sandy and branches off up there. You can still get motorcycles up there, but once you get on some parts of the Forest Service, it goes into that protected section. So,
Right.
yeah, the trailhead stays there
Okay.
and they'll access the frontage road off of Ridge Drive.
Oh, okay.
So it ties back into it. We've got our water main and our sewer coming up. That frontage road will just tie into those different places, so we create that, number one, for the water system, circulating water system, so we don't have any dead ends. But on the sewer line, that's our low spot anyway, so we gotta.
Who's responsible for that big sewer one that's up there now? There's a big one.
The main water tank or the sewer?
The sewer. There's a.
There's no sewer up
There's-
We got it right there. We got it at.
There are sewer manholes underneath the freeway that were done a number of years ago. And you'll see the little pump house that's there in the, by where the reservoir's going. Everything drains to that pump house from all these properties.
Those other manholes you're looking at.
They look like.
The Conservancy District for their air.
Air vacs.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could see those.
Yeah. Tokerville City does have an existing water line that comes down that frontage road as well from our water tank out there. So some of those valves, and there's a fire hydrant there, I believe, too, that's active. So
Any other discussion? Jenny?
It says staff suggests any recommendation be on the condition that the JUC comments be addressed, but I didn't see anything in my folder from the JUC.
We haven't been to JUC because we need this approved first. Well, we did.
It says this application was
plat.
presented for comment. Please see the comments, but I haven't seen the comments. Are they existent or?
yes.
Yes.
Did they not get included in your packets?
No, so they were included in the previous meeting that this
Oh,
item came forward.
so
but
they're in the
they-
January
they-
packet?
Yeah.
Yes, but
Okay,
they weren't
that's how I
included in this
missed
they-
it.
packet.
Sorry.
It probably just didn't get moved from
Okay.
this folder.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are available if you can go to that. But we did go to the Joint Utility Committee. There was very few. Some of those, UDOT is part of that utility committee meeting. That was part of their comments, was the 1,000-foot regulation. And I don't remember all of them right off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I
the
think
other,
it's the December.
Yes.
He was here in December because that's the
December.
meeting
missed the month, yeah.
that I went.
Yeah, so those comments, the majority
Okay.
of those red lines were from the fire district, and they were addressing the spacing of fire hydrants and required turnarounds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this. So where the new road will take off from Mills Lane will be closed off, right?
So Mills Lane won't access where it currently accesses. It will
Right.
go up the easement shown there, the 26-foot wide,
Yes.
and will
that's
access
exactly
off
what
of
I was
Boulder
thinking.
Ridge.
Okay, that's,
So they're closing it off at the 200-foot from the off-ramp
Yeah.
or 100
Yeah,
foot
they're
or
just-
50 foot.
They're
Right.
changing the point of access
Right.
from where it
Just
is
like-
to 1,000
like
feet
we
from
did on the
the
other one.
intersection.
Yeah, on the other side. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Any comments?
I had a question for staff. Has UDOT really committed or commented what it wants to do with Mills Lane? Because all mapping indicates Mills Lane is within the UDOT right of way for I-15 for the interstate. Are they looking to dedicate that, or are they wanting to push it into
So
other
as of right
jurisdictions?
now, we maintain that road. We receive B&C road funds. UDOT realizes that for both sides of the freeway. They have not indicated what they want to do there, no. As far as giving it to us, they assume that it's ours now, I would think, but I could verify that. I would have to verify that with UDOT.
I don't see UDOT giving up their footprint, which would leave an inherent conflict at some point. If the interstate expands 6, 7, 8 lanes, and they'll be looking, saying, okay, Mills Lane, you're out of here. It's our property. Doesn't have to be solved today, but I just see that as an ongoing
I
concern.
will ask the question. Definitely. It's a great question. Yeah. So right now, there was one comment too with the water district, is that they just said they take a lot of equipment in and out to the Cottom well there, and those tanks. They just said they wanted to make sure that that footprint remained the same so that they could still, and as you can see, it is still the same 26-foot wide footprint, and they'll build that as well for what you can see. And the construction drawings, the the engineered grading plans will come before us, and we'll go at that point, and we'll require these types of things to be engineered correctly in those plans.
Many more meetings. Yes.
Yeah, well, it's more of a staff level
Right.
Approvals, but yes, and that's part of your grading ordinance that you passed on.
So none of these landowners has to get an encroachment permit from UDOT, it's just from you guys on Mills Lane?
Yeah, as far as encroachment permit, we don't really have any asphalt. We don't have any water lines in that south end. So there wouldn't be really much of anything. But yes, as far as restoring the existing gravel dry roads that are there now, yes, they would have to have that.
From you or you?
From us.
Okay, but it will be improved.
Because UDOT does not recognize that frontage road as theirs at this point.
Well, you're lucky there.
But I would actually probably, maybe with what the attorney has said there, is we're going to have to verify, staff will verify that they don't accept that as their road. We've been receiving BNC road funds on it for quite some time. I know that, as a dirt road. And then we have done maintenance on it down to the water district and even to the homes that exist down there on the end now. We've had some soft spots over the years. We've gone in and put rock and built it back up for 3 homes.
I don't think UDOT will want it until they want it. And then that's where it becomes an issue.
And then they take.
We can ask that
How does
question.
one city entity condemn another one?
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Ready for a vote or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with.
Recommend approval?
I make a motion to recommend approval to the city council. This plat and application.
E3?
E3 discussion. For the discussion of the preliminary plat application submitted by Jerry Eves, located in the northwest intersection of I-15 and SR-17, tax ID T-3-0-22-3212, current zoning is for business and manufacturing, per staff recommendations, and in compliance with all city ordinances.
Thank you. We have a motion. Any
I'll second it.
motion and a second? Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Passed, unanimous. Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
Okay, business item E4, discussion on conditional use application submitted by Sapp Brothers, Inc. for Travel Center Building and Diesel Shop located 600 West, 1700 North, tax ID number T-3-0-27-3410 and T-3-0-27-315. Current zoning is highway commercial. Riker.
Yes, so staff has reviewed this application and deemed it complete. As per 10-12B-3 of the Tokerville City Code, and 10-20-3A, and 10-6-1. As you can see in the staff comments there, in our highway commercial zone, any permitted use in buildings over 5,000 square feet, a conditional use permit is required. And so this application is for a travel center and a diesel shop in that highway commercial zone.
Thank you. So again, we're looking at, does this fit our ordinances? Or they make a special conditional use? Yes.
Just so you, maybe a point of interest here is that the conditional use permit, it's just been sitting there as a placeholder for this. I would think that if you're going to have a hotel or anything like that would come across the street, similar type of things that conditional use, we have to go through conditional use because it is part of our ordinance right now and it is required on anything greater than 5,000 feet. This is possibly going to be something, an ordinance that we will bring before you hopefully in the next few months for possible changes to this because
5,000 feet is
Like
just
that, yeah.
insufficient for, yeah.
for commercial application.
Right.
I don't know if this was a oversight when we created the ordinance previously, but and I can't. Riker and I are trying to figure out why, but this is definitely one that we have to follow the ordinances, staff.
Yep.
And I don't know if legal has anything that they would like to comment
Okay.
about that either.
Anybody have any questions for staff? Okay.
No, this is a procedure for conditional. You've already permitted that's under construction. They're already in compliance with all your requirements and UDOT's requirements, things like that.
I'll open the public hearing for business item E4. Public input is sought on conditional use application submitted by SAP Brothers, Inc. for Travel Center Building and Diesel Shop located 600 West, 1700 North. Tax ID numbers T-3-0-27-3410 and T-3-027-315. Current zoning is highway commercial. Any comments? Please limit to 3 minutes. Okay, no comments. I move we close the public hearing and any other discussion from the commissioners?
I guess just some clarification and applicants here. Access is off that other side road, not on SR, the main highway. So, and then I heard they're going to put a stoplight in up there.
Yeah, so this is going to be this will be like I was saying earlier in my report, this will be the very first stoplight that we have in Tokerville. It is going to be on SR 17. And also, as I mentioned, the traffic report or traffic study that was done with this one, same engineer that did all of the ones up through there. It requires two turn lanes coming into this project. And so they'll be required to install those when that time comes. They'll have to finish their side of the road, and those types of things.
And I take that traffic light will have overhead lights to light up that intersection.
Yes. So and I don't know if Jake from Alpha Engineering is here. He is the design engineer on this project. I don't know if you want to speak to that as far as the design on that light. Yeah, so they're just.
That's going to be.
Yeah, so the
for
owners.
UDOT and everything else. This is just for the building, giving them.
No other questions.
Bigger building.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve unless Val.
I'll make a motion that we approve for recommendation to City Council, the conditional use application submitted by SAP Brothers for a travel center building and diesel shop which is business item E4.
Okay. We have
I
a motion.
second.
Do we have a second?
I second her
Second.
motion.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passed. Okay, that's everything on the agenda.
Oh, no, yeah, because we
Yep,
deleted.
can you move that one?
We moved to the other one to the front.
Okay, looks like we're finished and motion to, do we need a motion to close? I need a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
I'll second, go ahead.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. It is 7:55. Thank you, Daisy.